But let's go to Edmonton now. Gene Principe joining us. And we've been watching him all spring, and the Oilers run, the magical run, came to an end last night in overtime. Gino, not even a day into the offseason, man. How is Edmonton dealing with things?
Well, Rod, thanks for having me on the show. Interesting, you're talking about Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson. I saw Dustin Johnson's father-in-law, Wayne Gretzky, yesterday. He's been working on the coverage with TNT, and Wayne is, he's the great one. I mean, he's such a nice guy. And we were having a chat, and I almost asked him about this golf thing, which I don't know anything about. And I thought, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to talk about that. So we just stuck to hockey, which is, he knows a little bit about that. So it was a fun conversation. I think, Rod, just sensing the fans' departure from the arena through social media, people that I talked to during the season, during the playoffs, certainly sad, certainly disappointed, but I don't think mad with Edmonton making it to the conference final. The belief, Colorado, they're a hell of a team, and it's hard sometimes to know how really good another team is until you play them game after game after game. It's sometimes it's a back-to-back, or it's a travel, or it's 3 games in 4 nights. You're not really sure how you necessarily stack up to them. We knew that Edmonton might have been a slight underdog, but with McDavid and Draisaitl, you're not sure. They've been flying through these playoffs. So unhappy that it's ended, but happy that it happened at least for Edmonton to get this far in the playoffs.
I think the phrase is, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Right. That's a life phrase, but I think it could be worked for Edmonton. But I'll tell you what, Gene, I didn't think they'd turn it around. And I saw Ken Holland and his staff at a Red Deer Brandon playoff game this spring, and they said everything's coming together at the right time. That was with 1 week to go in the regular season. So the fact that they did turn it around is saying something. How did they... I mean, we know how they did it. They fired Dave Tippett. They signed Evander Kane. But overall, from what we didn't see, how did they turn it around?
Well, I think, you mentioned the loss of Dave Tippett, a good Saskatchewan boy who has a lot of friends around the hockey world. And they hired a coach named Jay Woodcroft. And, it's always hard to tell, Rod, you've been around sports forever, like me. And it's always hard to tell what impact a coach will have, can have, do they have. Back in the 80s when Glenn Sather was running the Oilers and then John Muckler, they were like, well, anybody can coach that team, right? It had Gretzky, it had Messier. But we don't know. They were the ones that coached it, and they won 5 cups in 7 years. Who's to say if it was somebody else? Then there's times you say, well, Scotty Bowman could be coaching this team and they wouldn't be in the playoffs. So, it's always hard to tell. But I will say this. I think Jay had a major impact on the team. He came in, and he's a guy that has, you just mentioned one of those sort of life sayings. He's got a bunch of them, and I think he's got key phrases and terms. And I think with another good Saskatchewan guy, Dave Manson, they came together and put together a really good game plan, wonderful leadership, and the right information that they needed, and they probably caught it at a good time. Who's to say if Dave Tippett had stayed, whether Edmonton would have continued to sort of find their form and then make the playoffs. And the other thing, too, is I think Connor and Leon found a level in the regular season that helped take them to the postseason. They found another level that helped them get to the conference final. But Colorado is just, Jared Bednar. We're talking about all these Saskatchewan guys. I thought a few years ago Jared Bednar was going to be out of work. They had a 48-point season, if my memory serves me right. And here he is. He's 4 wins away from being a Stanley Cup champion coach. So you never know where sports and life will take you. It took Edmonton to the 3rd round, but I think, Rod, you can hear someone say it's hard to climb Mount Everest. Okay, I believe that. But you try climbing it and you go, holy geez, it's really hard to climb Mount Everest. And I think the Oilers have had a sample of what it's like to win 8 games, but still wonder what you have to do to win 8 more in order to win the Stanley Cup.
Gino, I won't keep you too long. I could keep you all day. I love talking about this. And here's the interesting thing. I was at the Centennial Cup in Estevan. All the hockey guys were down there, some ex-Oilers, and they're, you know what these conversations are like? You're in them. Some guy leaned across this table in a luxury suite, and he's like, Rod, the players loved Tippett. So there was some guilt involved that he lost his job because they did love him. That's something that probably people don't know, Gene. Like, that was not an easy move for the team to make.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Rod. It's a great point made by them and followed up by you. First of all, Ken Holland had never let anyone go during a season. There have been coaches that finished the season and then, weren't renewed. So for him to do that at this point in his GM career, you knew that it was a big deal. And they did like Dave. That's the thing. It wasn't like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy. Far from it. Dave was well liked by the team. And so you feel bad that you let him down. Here's a guy that has poured his heart and soul into the franchise, and then he ends up getting fired and he walks out and he's gone. And, you're still behind going, what just happened here? So I think what Dave did, Jay continued to add on to it. And, you never know, right? When Edmonton went to Game 7 of the Cup final in 06, I mean, they clinched a playoff spot, second last game of the season. LA won a Stanley Cup as an 8th seed. You never know where you're going to be seated. But, I mean, Colorado, excluding a late run by Florida, was literally the best team in the NHL. They've been a second-round exit team trying to figure out how to get past the second round. Well, now they've figured it out. This Cale Makar is not bad. And Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen sort of woke up. And then you've got some role players that have come in. Andrew Cogliano, former member of the Oilers. Darren Helm, a Stanley Cup winner like 14 years ago, wins the faceoff that leads to the overtime winner by Arturi Lehkonen, who did it for Montreal last year, did it for Colorado last night. So, Rod, you've been around sports a lot. You never quite know what it's going to take to be victorious until you see it happen. And then you go, oh, that's what it takes. So Colorado, full credit for, I think Edmonton might have been able to win one or two, maybe deserved one or two. Last night was a wild game, highly entertaining. But when you beat a team 4 times in a week or 8 days, I think it's pretty fair to say they end up being the better team with the better results and being the Western Conference finalist in the Cup.
Last one for you, because I know your phone's going off like a slot machine at the Great Eagle Resort and Casino. If this was nice Calgary, if the roles were reversed, you know that they would be saying, well, at least we beat Edmonton. In Calgary, that would be a win, and I love Calgary. Believe me, I love it. I don't think Edmonton views it the same way. When do Oiler fans say, hey, we had a great season? Or even the team. When does the team say, we had a great season? Because it's pretty raw still, I would think.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that like today's exit interviews, we'll talk to a handful of players today, and then Ken Holland will talk tomorrow. So it'd be interesting to see how, automatically it's disappointment. But when they have a chance to sleep on it for a day, a week, a month, how will they feel about it? It's the old thing, right? Before the season, someone said, hey, you're going to make it to the Western Conference final. I think I can't speak for the players, but I think the fans would have went, I consider that a successful season, not the full success of winning the Cup, but I think I'll take that right now. Players are a little bit different, but I really got a feeling that they really get what it takes. When you lose in the first round, you watch the games on TV if you watch them, and sure, you see the sacrifice that goes into it, but you don't understand it until you actually live it. So I think the Oilers have lived a great lesson, which I think they'll take forward with them and use moving forward. But we'll see what the offseason brings, in particular regarding Evander Kane and what they decide to do, who Ken Holland can keep and who he can't keep, depending on both the personnel and the payroll.
Well, I'll say to you what I said to Jamie Thomas last hour. Enjoy whatever offseason you get. I'll miss you watching and you containing Stoff and Gager and those guys, because I know it's not easy. I'll miss it, but it will happen again in the fall. Gino, thanks for the time, man. I always appreciate you.
Yeah, vice versa. Enjoy the summer, Rod, if we don't chat soon.
Thank you. Well, the beautiful thing is it's endless summer here in Florida. I'll tell you that. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.